Hello, my name is Susan, a 35-year-old woman whose belief in fairy tale endings was firmly in place until 4 years ago when my life veered in an unexpected direction. That was when I met Justin, who would later become my husband. Our story, which began as a romantic narrative filled with love and trust, gradually unfolded into a tale of betrayal within the confines of what appeared to be an idyllic marriage. Our first encounter occurred on a typical Tuesday morning at the corner cafe. I was engrossed in a Scott Turow legal thriller, completely absorbed in the twists of the plot, when Justin walked in. His presence was immediately striking, confident yet approachable, with a warm smile that seemed genuinely welcoming. "Is that Gish's latest?" he inquired, nodding at my book with a friendly tone laced with real interest. "Yes, I just started it. He never disappoints," I replied, pleasantly surprised by how naturally our conversation flowed. Over the following weeks, Justin and I discovered our mutual passions for music, especially classic jazz, and our love for exploring quaint bookstores scattered throughout the city. Justin was charming, respectful, and always attentive, making every meeting feel like a reunion with a long-lost friend. One evening, as we strolled by the river, Justin's expression grew earnest. "Susan, I've never felt like this before. I think I'm falling for you," he confessed under the soft glow of the street lamps. His words ignited a warm rush of emotions within me, and I confessed, "I feel the same, Justin. You're unlike anyone I've ever met." 7 months swiftly passed, and our bond only deepened. During a cozy dinner at my apartment, Justin proposed, and I accepted without a second thought. I loved him deeply and was optimistic about our future together. However, the joy of our engagement was soon shadowed by anxiety as the time approached to meet Justin's parents. His mother, Catherine, was a stern woman with piercing eyes that scrutinized my every action, while his father was more approachable but carried a serious demeanor, particularly about marriage. The conversation shifted to a prenuptial agreement at a formal dinner at their home. "It's just practical," his father declared, catching me off guard. Given my previous experience with an unfaithful ex, I realized the importance of setting clear boundaries in relationships. With a firm tone, I proposed a condition. If either of us strays, the one who cheats will owe the other $200,000. Justin looked at me, his face a mixture of shock and admiration. "Susan, I promise I'll never cheat on you," he assured me with sincerity. Our wedding was a splendid event, brimming with joy, dance, and heartfelt promises of eternity. The initial year of our marriage was like living a dream. We journeyed to enchanting places, spent serene evenings together at home, and supported each other's dreams and ambitions. Justin was more than just my spouse. He was my best friend and confidant. After the excitement of our wedding, settling into married life was surprisingly smooth. Our first year felt like a blissful bubble, untouched by the outside world. Our honeymoon in Italy was magical, wandering along the Santa Caterina del Sasso as two lovers lost in the romance. "Can you believe we're here?" I asked Justin one evening as we watched the Eiffel Tower light up. He pulled me close and replied, "I believe anything is possible with you. This is just the beginning for us, Susan." Those days were filled with laughter, romantic dinners, and dreams of a future together. Returning home with a suitcase full of cherished memories, our connection seemed stronger than ever. Our daily routine was simple yet fulfilling. Justin would leave for work each morning, and I'd prepare dinner for his return. Our evenings were spent in deep conversation, discussing everything and anything. One evening, while tidying up after dinner, Justin said, "I never thought I'd be this happy doing ordinary things like washing dishes." I playfully splashed water at him, and he laughed, catching it in his hand. "That's because you've got an amazing wife. It's all about good company," I joked. This simple, joyful routine underscored the deep bond and shared happiness that characterized our life together. He once told me, "Marrying you was the best decision of my life, despite the increasing pressure from others, especially the expectations about starting a family soon." Our joy remained steadfast. Catherine, Justin's mother, would often drop not-so-subtle hints during family gatherings asking, "So, when are we going to hear some good news?" I typically responded with a lighthearted joke, but her persistent questioning began to wear on me over time. Justin would comfort me, reassuringly saying, "Don't let my mom get to you. We'll start a family when we're ready and not a minute sooner." Our first anniversary was marked by a magical celebration with a quiet dinner at home. Justin surprised me with a necklace I had admired months before, saying, "Happy anniversary, Susan. Here's to many more years of happiness," his eyes aglow with love. As we cuddled on the couch that night, I felt incredibly blessed. However, as we entered our second year of marriage, the pressure from Justin's family, especially Catherine, began to take its toll. It wasn't just about starting a family anymore. Her critiques permeated every part of our lives. Catherine's disapproval, often veiled in seemingly helpful comments, turned every family visit into an ordeal. One afternoon, as I was setting the table for lunch, Catherine walked into the kitchen, eyeing the spread with a disapproving frown. "Is this what you're serving? A bit simple, don't you think?" she remarked, her tone dripping with disdain. Clenching my jaw, I strived to keep my composure as her criticisms didn't stop at my cooking. She found fault in everything from our home decor to how I spent my free time. One evening, while we were relaxing in the living room, Catherine gave her unsolicited opinion. "You know, Susan, if Justin gave me the money he spends on you, I'd consider hiring a proper cleaner and cook." Justin appeared uncomfortable but remained silent, which felt like a betrayal. Despite seething with frustration, I managed to say, "Well, Catherine, I'm doing my best here." The hurt deepened as I noticed Justin's attitude beginning to echo his mother's criticisms, albeit more subtly. After one of Catherine's visits, he casually suggested, "Mom might have a point about the house. Maybe we should consider getting some help." A wave of hurt and frustration washed over me. I couldn't help but question Justin. "So, you think I can't handle things either?" He quickly backpedaled, saying, "No, that's not what I meant." But the harm was already done. Constant criticisms and Justin's growing detachment put a strain on our marriage, leading to petty arguments and turning our once effortless conversations into tense discussions. After one particularly intense argument, I found myself pondering aloud, "What happened to us, Justin? We used to be a team." He ran a hand through his hair, visibly frustrated, and responded, "I don't know, Susan. Everything feels so complicated now." That night, I went to bed feeling isolated and misunderstood. Catherine's subtle yet harmful remarks had not only invaded our home, but were also eroding our relationship, making me doubt whether the love Justin and I once shared could survive this constant barrage of negativity. As our fourth year of marriage began, unease settled in my heart. The once vibrant flame of our love now flickered under the shadow of doubt and distrust. It started with repeated calls from a name that frequently appeared on Justin's phone, Brian. Justin's demeanor shifted every time that name flashed on his screen. One evening, as we were watching TV and his phone rang yet again, I noticed the nervous glance he threw my way. Trying to sound nonchalant, I asked, "Who's Brian?" "Just a new guy at work, no one important," Justin replied, his voice a bit too casual, his explanation sounding rehearsed. However, Justin's behavior continued to change. He began coming home late, often providing flimsy and inconsistent reasons for his tardiness. Even his wardrobe changed, shifting from casual to sharply tailored suits. One night, as he was getting ready to leave for another late work night, I couldn't help but notice his dressed-up appearance. "Working late again?" I asked, noting the change. "Yeah, big project," he answered, but the way he said it made me feel even more disconnected from the man I once knew so well. He spoke without looking at me. "Don't wait up," he said tersely. The frustration I'd been bottling up erupted, and I finally confronted him. "Justin, this isn't like you. What's happening?" My voice shook, betraying my mix of anger and fear. Justin sighed heavily, his expression a mix of guilt and irritation. "I've told you, it's just work. Why can't you trust me?" he retorted. "Because something's off. You're hardly ever home, and even when you are, you seem distant, like you're a million miles away," I countered. Justin gave no reply, merely grabbed his coat and left, leaving me more isolated than ever in the silence of our home. That night, as I lay in our empty bed, I reached a painful decision. I couldn't continue living in a cloud of doubt and suspicion. I needed to uncover the truth, no matter the cost. The next morning, I took a step that felt like betrayal, yet necessary. I called a private detective. The constant stress and uncertainty had become unbearable, and I was determined to find answers. The ensuing days were a blur of nervous anticipation. I felt as though I was balancing on a thin wire, trying to keep my life seemingly normal while everything around me seemed to be on the verge of collapse. Then the detective's call came, and with it, my world shattered. "Mrs. Johnson, we've found conclusive evidence. Unfortunately, your suspicions were correct," the detective said solemnly. He revealed that Justin had been unfaithful, and the person he had been speaking to as Brian was, in fact, a woman. The details of their secret meetings, complete with timestamps and photographs, were undeniable. Sitting there with the phone in hand, I was overwhelmed by a torrent of emotions, devastation at the betrayal, yet a grim sense of vindication. My deepest fears had been confirmed, not just as baseless worries, but as stark, undeniable truths. Now, armed with this knowledge, I faced the daunting task of deciding what came next. I chose not to confront Justin right away. I needed to grasp the full scope of his betrayal, not just the evidence of his infidelity. One evening, as I passed by his home office, I inadvertently overheard a conversation that sent a chill down my spine. Justin was speaking with his mother, Catherine. "Mom, I'm planning to end it with Susan after your birthday," Justin stated, his voice chillingly devoid of any warmth he once had for me. "Oh, that's wise, dear. Make sure she gets me a nice 60th birthday present before you drop the bomb," Catherine responded, her tone dripping with cold calculation. Leaning against the wall, I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. Not only was my husband unfaithful, but he and his mother were also conspiring against me, planning to use me for one last lavish gift before casting me aside. Fueled by a potent mix of anger and determination, I decided to play along. I carried on as if nothing was wrong, all the while secretly gathering more evidence of Justin's infidelity. The detective supplied me with everything: photos, videos, and even audio recordings. I was building my case, preparing for the moment I would confront them. Each night, as I lay beside the man who had betrayed me, a plan began to take shape in my mind. I would wait until after Catherine's birthday. I would give them the illusion of victory, letting them think they had outsmarted me. But when they least expected it, I would reveal everything and turn the tables. As Catherine's 62nd birthday drew near, I maintained a facade of ignorance, acting as if everything was normal. Inside, I was a cauldron of emotions, seething with anger and a sense of betrayal, yet strategically masking my feelings to prepare for the impending confrontation. With a fierce determination to see my plan through, the days leading up to Catherine's birthday crept by. At a family dinner a few days before the celebration, Catherine casually brought up her upcoming 62nd birthday. With a sly smile, she hinted, "So, Susan, I'm expecting a grand 62 the birthday. You must have planned something special for me." Keeping my emotions under control, I replied with restrained enthusiasm, "Of course, Catherine. I've arranged a dinner at the city's most luxurious restaurant. It will certainly be a night to remember." Her eyes sparkled with glee, oblivious to the trap I was setting. "How wonderful! It's just a small family gathering, right?" she inquired. "Yes, very intimate and exclusive, just for close family," I confirmed, my words tinged with veiled irony. Later that night, Justin approached me, a hint of suspicion in his voice. "That's quite a generous plan for Mom's birthday. Are you sure about this?" I faced him, maintaining my composure. "It's a significant birthday, and I want to do something special for her." Justin seemed satisfied, yet I could sense he was puzzled by my eagerness to indulge his mother. As the day of the dinner drew near, I handled the final arrangements with meticulous care, confirming the booking under Catherine's name, double-checking the guest list, and ensuring everything was perfectly in place for the grand evening. Playing the role of the dutiful wife and daughter-in-law, I masked my true intentions under a facade, ready to expose the betrayal and deceit that had eroded our marriage. The night before the dinner, as I lay in bed, a twisted sense of satisfaction enveloped me. I was just hours away from turning the tables on Justin and Catherine, ready to reveal everything in a dramatic climax that would shake the foundations of our relationship. They thought they were exploiting me for one final advantage before casting me aside, unaware that I was the one in control of the game. The evening of Catherine's 62nd birthday unfolded at a luxurious restaurant, with every detail carefully orchestrated to reflect the opulence of the occasion. While Catherine basked in the lavishness, I maintained the role of a gracious daughter-in-law, my practiced smile concealing the storm within. As the dinner drew to a close, the waiter presented the bill, a staggering $6,800. With a composed demeanor, I reached for my card, my heart racing. After swiping the card, I glanced around the table, catching Catherine's self-satisfied smirk and Justin's uneasy glance. "Thank you for such a wonderful evening, Susan. This is truly generous," Catherine remarked, her voice laced with feigned gratitude. Seizing the moment, Justin leaned in with a tone of finality. "By the way, Susan, I want a divorce." His words hit me like a physical blow, but I refused to show any sign of hurt. Catherine added sharply, "Well then, I guess you should leave. This is a family gathering after all." Without a word, I stood, maintaining my dignity amidst the internal chaos, and walked out of the restaurant. As soon as I was out of sight, I swiftly canceled the payment on my phone and blocked the shared bank account, ensuring that Justin couldn't cover the cost either. Back at home, I quickly packed my belongings, the weight of my final actions settling in. I was leaving this chapter of my life behind, stepping into an uncertain but hopeful future. Soon my phone erupted with calls. I answered, and Catherine's voice, shrill with rage and panic, filled my ears. "The payment didn't go through, and the restaurant staff called the police. What have you done?" she shrieked. Her words were cries of anger and disbelief, but I felt a sense of release and vindication. I had escaped their manipulations and was now free to rebuild my life on my terms. I remained silent, letting her tirade wash over me. This was their own doing. Their betrayal and manipulation had come full circle, now haunting them. After ending the call, I looked around the empty house that once brimmed with dreams and love, now just a hollow shell. Taking a deep breath, I stepped out the door and didn't look back. Their calls continued, desperate pleas for help, but I no longer felt obliged to answer. I had firmly closed that chapter of my life. In the end, they paid the price. Justin had to borrow money from his parents to cover the bill, but where the money came from didn't concern me. It was a small compensation for their betrayal, but more importantly, it represented closure. Sitting in the lawyer's office, signing the last of the divorce papers, I felt a wave of peace wash over me. The journey had been fraught with betrayal and heartache, but I had emerged stronger and more resilient. Walking out into the sunlight, I felt like a truly free woman, ready to embrace a fresh start. The future was uncertain, but it was mine to shape. After all the darkness, I finally felt like I was stepping into the light, ready to craft a new chapter on my terms.